Snapshots of the perfect relationship. He always used to call me his beautiful poet, and he was my kaleidoscope. My artist, a poet and an artist in love. Surely we were going to starve, but when I think back to those passionate nights and color-filled days, I long for what I know is dead. 2 years ago, I met Alec at a New Year's Eve party 2 years ago. I was not a fan of New Year's Day. I spent that time lamenting over the past. I had promised a draft to my editor 2 weeks ago. I had 2 days left and all I had were scraps of crumbled up paper filling my bin. And I was drinking a glass of who knows what at a friend's party. I'm not a social butterfly. I do not do well in crowds. I watch people interact with each other and have the time of their lives, and I long to be carefree. Why are you so deep in thought? At a party, a voice said beside me. I'm just taking a break from dancing. What do you mean? I turned to look at the guy beside me. He was tall and lanky with long dark hair. He smiled at me. I saw that one of his teeth was chipped. I am very observant. I notice everything. From the time that I meet someone, a lot of things run through my mind, as I am sure runs through everyone else's. Strange, because the only time I have seen you move was when you went to go and get another drink, he smirked. You caught me, stalker, I teased. I'm not, he laughed. Oh really? What are you then? Alec. I'm Jordan. It's a pleasure to meet you, Jordan. Wanna go for some fresh air? Seem to need it, he said. You read my mind, shall we? So then we ditched the party and went outside. My head was airy for too much drinking and there was a light breeze in the air and balanced itself out. And so we spent the night just walking. It was New Year's Day, so it was safe. I found it so easy to talk to him. He was an artist, but he worked at an art gallery so that he could pay the bills. He enjoyed painting sunsets because they were the last remnants of the day. He survived on coffee and energy drinks just like I did. We bonded over that. Then I found out that he was gay, just like me. A part of me was glad to know because I found him cute and interesting. I could have spent the whole night talking to him. Then the countdown began, and the people all around us started to kiss. I was drunk and bold, so I decided to join in on the fun and gave him a small kiss. It was brief, but I remember how soft his lips felt against my own as the fireworks went off around us. 2 months later, I was surprised to bump into Alec at the stationery shop. I had gone to buy some more paper and pens. I was that person who preferred writing on paper to typing any day. My thoughts just flowed on paper. I know you, he said. Alec, haven't seen you since that night, bruh. I made to hug him, but he stopped me. He gestured at his t-shirt, which was filled with paint. Ooh, been painting, I asked. Yes, feeling a bit inspired. Today's a beautiful day. What brings you here, dear poet? Looking for inspiration in old boring stories? No, actually, I came here to get some supplies as well. Wanna get drinks sometime? I bravely asked him. The truth was that I had been thinking about him a lot. After that night, I had gone to hang out at my friend's house hoping to bump into him, but I had no such luck. So I let go of the guy I had met on New Year's Eve, after writing a poem about him. I had also written a short story about our encounter, so that I would not forget. And here he was. He had manifested in front of me. Of course, I would love to. I've got to go now. Catch you later, dude. He grinned as he walked away. So we met up for drinks a few days later. I did not have anything to drink because I was planning on writing a chapter of my book later on. Writing and drinking did not go hand in hand for me. We talked about art, music, love, life, and we flirted. From the beginning, there seemed to be an attraction between us. We had many things in common as well. It had just been drinks, but I hoped that I would be able to take him on a date soon. We got to know each other through texting and hanging out. The attraction between us was undeniable. It was not long before he asked me out on a date. I was over the moon. I had been wanting to ask him out for a long time, but I'd been too nervous and I backed out every single time. The date went well and we shared a nice kiss at the end. So then we started to date. Our relationship was perfect. We brought out that fire in each other. We did everything that we wanted to. We would spend whole weekends attending art shows or music concerts. Then we would spend days just laying around at his place or mine. With him, I burnt brightly. He showed me love that I had never known before. All those who had come before him meant nothing. It was just him and I. Months flew past and it felt like nothing could ever go wrong. We became intimate for the first time after we'd been dating for a year. Everything was perfect in our relationship. We did bicker as most couples did. We had childish spats which led us to not talking for weeks, but we were very happy. One night, I was at his place, and we were just watching a movie, and I was lying on his chest. He He was caressing my hair and it felt so good. He had a bad habit of talking during a movie, so I kept getting mad at him, but I could not get mad at him for long. We started to make out and we ignored the movie. His heart beat so fast and I enjoyed how it felt under my palm. His scent filled my senses. All I wanted was him. I looked into his eyes and I saw it too. He wanted me. I took off his shirt and he took off mine, and we were just a mass of limbs and lust on the sofa. "I want you," he said. "Take me," I said. He started to trail his hand down to my belt and I got very excited. But then he stopped in the middle of unbuckling my belt. "Why?" I asked him. He gave me a wicked smile. "You want our first time to be on a sofa?" He chuckled as he pulled me off the sofa and led me to his bedroom. He took no time in undressing me until I was naked. He looked at me as if I was a piece of canvas. I loved to see him look at me in that way. It meant that I was someone special to him. Then we had the night of our lives, where our bodies connected and our souls collided. And when we reached the highest point, we held each other, and for a while, we were not on this plane. We were flying. 2 months later. "I love you," I said after we had just made love and we were covered in paint. It had been his idea to try out something new, and I had loved it. The colors just added to the pleasure. "I love you too," he said, kissing me. His kisses never failed to make me feel butterflies. We laid there for a while, saying nothing because all we had to say, our bodies had said for us. "So I wanted to ask you something," he said. "Sure." "Want to move in with me?" he asked. "What? Move in with me?" "Yes, I would love to." I covered his body with kisses while he laughed. Everything was now right. I was going to move in with a man that I loved. I'd never believed that someone would love me like that one day, but here I was, feeling like I was going to explode from the love. He was mine, and I was his. We were going to live together. Things could not have been better. So I moved it to his loft a week later. It was very exciting for both of us. We could barely keep our hands off each other. We redecorated some of the rooms because we wanted the loft to feel more like a couple's. We enjoyed all the benefits of living together. We would host a few friends every now and then. We would spend the whole day in our pajamas, just kissing and watching movies. We even got to the stage where we met each other's families. It was a nerve-wracking experience. Both of our families were very accepting of our relationship, and we never had anyone oppose it. It was good, solid. We kept on going, from strength to strength to strength. The cracks started to show and we were nearing our 2 years anniversary. It was a tough pill to swallow, but we were having financial problems. It was winter and his workplace was not busy. I was also having a bad spell in my writing jobs, so we were struggling to pay rent. We retreated into quiet shells and did not speak much to each other. When we did, it was to argue over whose fault it was that we were struggling to pay rent. We were sensitive people, so the upkeep of the apartment went a bit sideways. We would hardly cook. Takeaway boxes filled the fridge to the brim. There was dust in all of the shelves that held not a single shred of food. And let me not even speak of the cockroaches. The house was crawling with insects. I remembered my mother's words to me the last time she saw me. "Don't you think you should get a job?" "But I'm doing fine freelancing while I write my novel." "Are you living with Alec now? You need some financial stability. The two of you are an artist and a writer. You will starve," she had said. And what she had said was now turning out to be the truth. The financial problems were not the only things that were bothering us. He was distant and cold towards me. He would go out without telling me, and I would spend the whole night waiting for him to show up. And he would not show up until next morning. Then he would go work. I regretted moving in with him. Things had been good before we had decided to live together. Maybe that was the reason why we were falling apart, but I had a feeling that the reason was something else. We had been in a whirlwind romance. We had somehow managed to make it last. We still had to grow up though. We had a lot of growing up to do, and the relationship was not going to work if we did not grow up. So I decided to get back on my feet. I looked for jobs that I could do until I started getting more writing jobs. I started to clean the house daily, and soon it was not looking like an insect-infested den. But he was inconsistent. When he looked at me, I felt like we were worlds apart. We barely talked anymore. All that we talked about was the weather and what was for dinner. How pathetic was that? So then one day I asked him something that I'd been meaning to for a while. "Do you still love me?" I said. There was a pause, an awkward silence. He looked at me. "Sure, of course," I said. "Don't you think that we should break up?" I asked. "Why, do you want to break up with me?" he asked. "No, I thought that you wanted to break up," I replied. "Of Of course not. I love you. Why would you think of such a thing? A few days later. It was our 2-year anniversary. I'd been saving up to surprise him with dinner at an expensive restaurant. It was my last attempt at saving the relationship. I was tired. It felt as if there was nothing left for me to save. But I hoped that I was wrong. I had been feeling it for months now. There was a void in our relationship. We had gone apart. We had burnt quickly and brightly, and we had burned out. Now I hoped to rekindle that flame once more. I did not want to let go of my artist. The memories threatened to make me explode sometimes. They were very vivid, in a very scary way. I wanted to go back to who I had been, so young and in love. I wanted our love to burn brightly again. I had dressed up in a tux. I never wore anything formal, but I wanted to remind him of all those moments which we had shared together. Those moments had built our love and made us stronger. So I waited for him at our table. I had told him the place where we were going to meet and the time, but I waited 5 minutes, turned into an hour, and I still waited for him. But he never showed up. He had disappointed me on the most important night of our relationship. It was the nail in the coffin. He had done it now. We were done. I got a taxi and I went back to our apartment. I opened the door and there was no one there. He has chosen to go out over our anniversary. I was no longer important to him. Our relationship had been over for a while, but we had denied it. We were void of love and passion. How had we ended up here? How had our fire fizzled out just like that? I could hardly understand. I was sad about our situation, but when I looked deep into my heart, I realized that I had not loved him for a while. I loved him as a person, but loving him as my partner, I had stopped loving him. All that we had been reduced to ash. So I did the logical thing. It was the middle of the night and I could not move out, so I packed some of my stuff in bags and I left a letter for him on the kitchen counter. Dear Alec, we have tried, but we have failed. Our place has burnt out and now it's time for me to go. I will never forget your love. I hope you will think of me too one day. For now, I must depart, for both of our sanities to remain intact. Yours, Jordan. Then I closed the door behind me and I got into a cab. I showed up at my friend Lisa's house. She knew the problems that I'd been having in my relationship and told me to come anytime that I felt like. I could not do it anymore. I had hoped that the letter would convince him otherwise, that he would just realize that he'd lost me, and he would change, that he would chase after me and declare his undying love for me. The last time I spoke to him was when I had sent a moving company to fetch the rest of my things at his house. He had been distant and not affected by the whole thing at all. I had expected an outburst, something, anything to show me that he cared, that I had left him, but nothing. He acted as if I was just a business transaction. So I never spoke to him again. I moved on with my life, as difficult as it was. It was difficult to stop thinking about him every day, to stop wondering why he had withdrawn from me, to stop cursing the difficult winter that had led to us struggling. I felt nothing for him, but that did not stop the thoughts from plaguing my mind. He had once been my brightest star, the one person who understood me, the one person who had made me feel alive like I had never been. I had seen forever with him. I thought that we were going to last forever, but now I see that I had been delusional. Nothing that is so passionate can last forever. Maybe it can for those who are lucky. I wish that we had been lucky, that we had not ended up empty after we had so much. Now those 2 years were clearly for nothing. We were not anything to each other anymore. I saw him sometimes. We never said a word to each other. We just passed each other as if we were strangers. Ours had not been a messy breakup. It had been clean and practical. Somehow, it hurt more than the messy breakups that I had gone through in the past. My mother was right. We had starved. Now we carried on with our lives as if we had never crossed paths, as our bodies and souls had never collided on several nights. Such as life. The end. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become part of our Rainbow Force and stay wholesome.